Well, hello, everyone. This is Gustavo Tolosa here from Dallas, Texas. But we are together with Chef AJ in
Marshall, Texas.
Marshall, Texas. Yes, we are. So there you go. The Health Fest. Wonderful 3 days here.
It's been put on many years by the former mayor, several-term mayor of Marshall, Texas, Ed Smith, and his lovely wife, Mandy. So if you're interested, go to healthfest.com or look up Get Healthy Marshall. Lots of stories have been written about them in newspapers and on TV. They're a wonderful couple who brought the plant-based message to this town of about 20,000 or so people. It has a wonderful story. He's had all the wonderful plant-based speakers, Colin Campbell, Dr. Barnard,
Right,
Dr.
right.
Gregor is here, so we're going to have a great weekend.
This is, and it's amazing. This whole city is well, not everybody.
Not everybody. There's
but,
still some
but
cows.
to have actually a mayor to take that
Right.
initiative, I wish more cities were like that.
And the great thing is even though it's going to be even more plant-based for the Health Fest, they've gone to all the restaurants in their town, and there is a V special, a vegan option every day at every restaurant thanks to what they did. And you can do that in your town too. So we're going to be doing 5 recipes, and 4 of them are brand new. And one of them is in my book Unprocessed. However, I have actually never demoed it in any of the online forms. So you've never actually seen this one demoed online. If you're in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, you have a variation of it that's made in the pressure cooker, but it's not quite the same. So I want to show you the original recipe. I've been teaching cooking for 16 years, and I've been teaching SOS-free, sugar-free, oil-free, salt-free, and gluten-free cooking for the last 8, and this is always the recipe I demonstrate, because even before I had a pressure cooker, it's the easiest way to make soup. So let me show you how. So right here on the stove, I don't know if you can catch that, Gustavo. Large pot, I have 12 cups of water, which I've brought to a boil. And you certainly can use broth, and I'll talk a little bit about broth in a minute, but I want to get this recipe started. So I'm using canned beans. There's nothing wrong with using canned beans. If you're worried, you can get beans in boxes or BPA-free cans, or you can cook them yourself. But you need a total of 9 beans. And I'm using not 9 beans. That would not be much of a soup. 9 cups of beans. Yeah. Each can of beans is 1.5 cups of beans, and I use salt-free beans, so I don't have any problem using that liquid. If you cook the beans from scratch, each can has about 1/2 cup of liquid, so you probably want to add that back in the form of either water or broth. I'm putting 3 cans in now, half of the beans, 4.5 cups, and I'm going to stir 4.5 cups in later for texture, because this is going to be a blended soup. And what's so great about this soup is because it's blended, I do not have to cut anything up. Now, I was a volunteer culinary instructor for many years at the Braille Institute in Los Angeles. And as you probably know, most people have gone blind because of type 2 diabetes, which is not only preventable on a whole food plant-based diet, but largely reversible. And even though blind people can do almost everything as good as sighted people, with the exception of maybe dry, that would be the only thing I probably wouldn't recommend. I taught them yoga, I taught them painting, I taught them poker. They're great poker players because they have poker. It doesn't matter if they have a poker face, they can't see. But I found that if any technique or tool was great for a blind person, it was also great for a sighted person because we're all busy. So that's okay, right, Gustavo? Even though
right.
Okay. So we've got the liquid, which can be broth or water. We've got 3 up to 6 cans of beans, and now we just literally put everything in, no cutting anything up. So I've got 2 pounds of sweet potatoes, and if you can't find sweet potatoes, you can use yams, you can use regular potatoes. When I'm in LA, I like to make it with bok choy, because I like bok choy. It's a really high form of calcium. I couldn't find bok choy here. That was the only thing I couldn't find. I probably could have found it at a health food store, but I just went to Kroger. Everything today is from Marshall, Texas. Well, there's the phone, because we're really in somebody's house.
Correct.
So I couldn't find a pound of bok choy or baby bok choy, so I'm using celery. And celery's going to be great because it actually gives it a little bit of a salty flavor since I don't use any salt in my cooking. 2 onions, all I did was peel them. I'm not even going to cut them up. How easy is this? And by the way, this is a black bean soup that will look and taste like any black bean soup from a Mexican restaurant, but this technique you can do with almost every recipe, and I do. Well, of course, now I use the pressure cooker.
Well, I've never seen anybody use whole.
Oh, absolutely.
That's just great.
So as much as I love my pressure cooker, and you know I love my Instant Pot, we're going to be using it for the next recipe. It only makes about 16 cups. Now, they are coming out with an 8-quart model. It will make a few more, but this makes 32 cups of soup, so you have enough for leftovers and to freeze. Got a pound of mushrooms. I'm using the Baby Bella, but any kind you like is fine. They add a lot of flavor as well as nutrition. And then a pound of greens. So for people that won't eat their vegetables, this is a great way to make them eat their vegetables because we have about 10 pounds of vegetables in this that are hidden. So these are collard greens. I could have used kale, it wouldn't have mattered. So we're going to use 2 pounds of corn, 1 pound now, 1 pound later. I'm going to get more greens in a minute. I've just divided my 2 pounds of corn. Corn is one of the things that I recommend that you do get organic because it's one of the most heavily genetically modified crops. Corn, soy, and wheat. I don't use soy or wheat, but corn I always make sure I get organic. 1 pound now, 1 pound later. We're going to get all these greens in here. We're going to really jam it close. It's going to cook down, by the way.
That's not a ton of
Yeah,
greens.
and this is going to take about 30 minutes to cook down. But you don't have to do anything. Oh, I got to get the garlic, and I will get that. That's in the fridge. But we're going to get all these greens. At home, I use Swiss chard or rainbow chard. That's my favorite. But any green you like is fine. So for people that aren't eating vegetables, this is a great way to sneak them in. So this is one of my secrets in all my cooking because I don't use salt, but I still want a lot of flavor. In addition to fresh herbs, one of the things I use is sun-dried tomatoes. These are sun-dried tomatoes that are made without any oil or any salt, and this is actually 3 ounces, and it's not very much, but believe it or not, these 3 ounces of sun-dried tomatoes came from 4 pounds of tomatoes, so it's a really concentrated flavor, and you just tend not to miss the salt. Now, you can buy sun-dried tomato powder online or places like Savory Spice. I just make my own with sun-dried tomatoes. I get the harder ones, but the kind without oil or salt. So this is just going to add a lot
So
of
you
flavor.
made these?
I did not make
Okay.
these. However, at home in Los Angeles, I have a dehydrator, and I have made these when tomatoes have been either getting ready to go bad or been on sale because sun-dried tomatoes can be a little bit expensive.
And you said that these are made with no oil.
No oil and no salt.
What are people looking for?
Well, they're going to look for the label because most
Okay.
of the time they're packaged. Sometimes they're in bulk, and if they're in bulk, you're going to need to ask. So the only other thing that's going to go in here are the seasonings. And those of you that have ever watched my videos or taken a class with me know that one of the things I do is I make my spices up in advance. Research shows that as much as people say they love variety and want variety, come on guys, how many of you eat 30 different breakfasts every day, 30 different lunches? It's not true. Whether we're eating healthfully or not, people repeat their favorites. And so for the soups that I make on a regular basis like this, or my split pea soup, or my red lentil chili, or my mushroom chili, what I do is every 3 months I take a bunch of jars and line them up, and I have a little party measuring them all out. Now, make sure you label them. I say that. Do as I say, not as I do, because I forget to label them, and that's how I ended up with cumin in my oatmeal one time.
Oh, wow.
But I made this before I came to Los Angeles. These are the spices. It's 2 tablespoons of oregano, 2 tablespoons of cumin, 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika. Smoke makes a difference. It tastes way different, way better than regular. And 1 teaspoon of chipotle powder. And you could always use more or less to taste depending on how hot you like it. So it's super easy when you get home from work. If you have all your spices measured, you just dump them in.
You put it all in
It's
there.
all in. Now the only thing else that's going to go in here is some lime juice, and that's we don't ever want to cook with citrus or acid or vinegars, or you do that at the end. What that's going to do is because we're not using salt, our taste buds for sour sit right next to our taste buds for salt. So when you give yourself something sour like vinegar or lemon juice or lime juice, it often helps you not miss the salt so much. But there's so much flavor in this. I've never had anybody need to add salt to this particular recipe. But if somebody did, what I would recommend instead of salt or even using ingredients that actually have sodium like coconut aminos or tamari or Bragg's or miso, I recommend this product. It is called Benson's Table Tasty. And if you go to their website, which is Benson's, BENSONS, Gourmet Seasonings with an S.com, we'll give you that link. You can get 10% off using my name. And I believe that Debbie Benson still gives people a free sample. She has a whole line of salt-free seasonings. Her mother had heart disease, and she makes this incredible line. But this one is my favorite. It tastes like salt. It's got some dried herbs. It's got lemon. I like it much better. The other thing is because I'm allergic to black pepper, many of the blends have black pepper. There's really good ones at Costco and Trader Joe's, but this one for me is the best also. It also tastes the best. Now, I had mentioned that you can use water or broth. I'm using water. Water's free. That's what they had. They actually did have salt-free broth in their pantry and at Kroger, made by a company called Kitchen Basics. But because it had black pepper in it, I'm not using it because then I can't taste it. However, you can always get vegetable broth, either low sodium or no sodium. But once you get your Instant Pot electric pressure cooker, you can make your own broth from scraps. That's what I do, and it's delicious and it's free.
And when you use the broth, the vegetable broth bought, is that you use all that, or do you mix it with
You
water?
can mix it. Think about it, guys.
Because it looks so
it's expensive.
thin.
It is. A box of broth, unless you're shopping at the 99-cent store and they might not have the salt-free or the vegetable, it can be $2 or $4. And if you're using 12 cups, that's 3 of them.
Yeah.
Do you really want to pay $12 just for broth when you can make it for free in your Instant Pot? But as Gustavo said, you certainly could dilute it with water. But the truth is, most people find, we're in a real house with real dogs, so excuse the noise. Most people find that even just with water, this is great. So it's going to take 30 minutes to cook down. And again, nothing's been cut up, but you guys didn't remind me. I forgot to put in the garlic.
Yeah. Oh, the garlic is what's going to really
Yep.
make this taste great.
So I always put in at least 8 cloves. And if a little's good, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My feeling is if a little's good, more is better. So let's get that garlic in. If for some reason you couldn't have garlic, don't put it in. I always buy my stuff peeled. That was the other thing. I couldn't find things peeled here. I had to do it the old-fashioned way. So great. So we're going to come back to the soup in about 30 minutes, but what we want to do now is we want to get the fruit cobblers in the oven. So I call these breakfast fruit cobblers because they are not, well, we're going to make a cherry and a mango because that was the frozen fruit that I chose at Kroger, and it was great because they had big 3-pound bags, so they were a lot less expensive than those little 1-pound bags. You could eat it for dessert, but remember, we're doing sugar-free, oil-free, salt-free. So if you're not using sugar and we're not even using dates, it's not going to be like sickeningly sweet. So that's why I'm calling it a breakfast cobbler, because it's basically a ridiculously easy fruit and oat bake, and it makes a great breakfast. But if your palate has adjusted to not having such a high need for sweet, this could actually be dessert for you. So we're going to make 2 of these. At home, I would have used my silicone bakeware, but I didn't bring them. But these will be fine. These are just little pie plates you can get anywhere. I've seen these at Bed Bath & Beyond and Target for like $6 or $7. So we've got a pound of mango here and a pound of cherries. And it's fine if you can go right from the freezer.
But
these have actually
don't have pits.
no pits. Now here's the thing though. Cherries are different, so make sure for this recipe you want to get the sweet cherries. If you use the tart ones, and we're not using any sugar, we're not even using dates, it's not going to be sweet. So I have preheated the oven to 350 degrees.
And how long is this one staying?
That's going to go for 30 minutes.
Oh, 30 minutes. All right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to make a topping for
Just
this.
going to make a topping for
the cobbler. For the breakfast fruit cobbler. Just looking for my bananas. Oh, it was so great. At Kroger, they had bananas. They were already ripe. They were organic.
Right.
And I got some oats. I found, like I said, everything from
Old-fashioned,
Kroger. I found oats. I got unsweetened applesauce.
Kroger should be giving you a
That's
commission
right.
here.
They should give me at least a gift card for promoting them. So now I'm going to make the top. You know what I'm going to do is got this little bowl right here that will be great. Now, you will get these recipes before you see this video. So I don't have the exact measurement. I've only made this recipe once because people saying, new recipes. So you guys don't realize how hard it is to create new recipes. Because I eat the same thing over and over again, which you'll see is really one of the secrets to my sustained 50-pound weight loss and recovering from food addiction. But that said, you'll get the exact measurements, but I'm kind of winging it now because I don't have my food scale and things like that. So what we're going to do is we are going to blend these bananas. Probably I need 4 of them, I'm guessing, because I'm doing 2 different cobblers. So I'm putting my ripe bananas. Realize, again, we're not using dates, we're not using sugar or any dried fruit. So make sure that your bananas are ripe, because otherwise it's not going to be sweet at all.
Did you say 4?
I'm going to use 4.
Okay.
And usually I do everything by weight, so I would say like 6 ounces or 8 ounces. But I'll go tweak this again at home when I get home, and I will get it to you exactly. The truth is, guys, is I don't follow recipes, ever. Ever. That's why it's so hard for me to write a cookbook.
Okay.
Really, I just cook intuitively. And
Well,
I understand that you guys have a need for these, so that's why I'm going to do that for you. So now, my unsweetened applesauce. You can always add vanilla to any dessert recipe, but they have only alcohol vanilla here, and I don't want to add alcohol to this. So I'm going to add a cup of unsweetened applesauce. I'm also going to teach you how to make your own. It's very easy. Very, very easy. There we go. And for this recipe, any blender would do. Didn't have to be. this wonderful high-powered Vitamix. There we go, very simple. Need to get a bowl for mixing. Not my house, here we go, so sorry. Should have probably got that in advance. There we go. So now what I'm gonna do,
Okay.
so we're creating this recipe together. That's how fantastic recipes are made. So I'm gonna pour the puree into this bowl. Now I'm measuring out some oats. I'm gonna start with 4 cups, and then I'm gonna mix it up, and then I'm gonna let you know.
4 cups of
4
oats.
cups of oats.
These are
Rolled-
old-fashioned.
Yeah, well, yes,
Not
rolled
instant.
oats, not instant. Let me just get my little spatula. And then I'm going to add a little cinnamon because I like cinnamon in just about everything, and maybe a little bit of cardamom. Like I say, you will get the recipe, so you'll have this measured. So I can see it's still a little bit too liquidy right here that I want, so I'm going to add some more oats after I mix these in. Because this is going to go over the top. So in reality, the reason that I'm calling this a breakfast is because, think about it, it's just fruit and oats. So why couldn't it be breakfast?
Right.
So let's add another cup. I'm guessing
It's another
this
way
will
of
be-
eating your oatmeal
Yep,
in the morning.
a funner way. So 6 cups.
6.
6
Basically,
cups, the whole box, yeah.
box.
Because I'm doing a double recipe. So let me get some cinnamon in here. And so, when I work with cardamom, I'm talking like, a 1/4 teaspoon, a 1/2 teaspoon.
It's
At the most.
easily
Doesn't it smell
overdone.
good? It is a wonderfully fragrant,
Oh,
almost
wow.
kind of floral spice. So I'm just going
Yes.
to do a 1/2 teaspoon. You can either omit it or you can do more. And cinnamon, you can't go wrong with cinnamon.
No.
Nutmeg, yes. So I'm going to put a whole tablespoon in. Probably 1 teaspoon per recipe would have been enough, but I really do like cinnamon. And I love the cinnamon they sell at the Kroger out here, which is actually roasted. So what I'm going to do is just mix this up real good. And you could eat this right now, by the way. I mean,
Yeah.
oats don't have to be cooked because they're already steamed. Remember that oats do not look like this in nature. Oats are oat groats, and we have a package in the pantry. If you like, I can grab it in a second. But the oat groat looks like rice. And it can take a really long time to cook.
Right.
Unless you have an Instant Pot, then it doesn't take very long at all. So that is really the healthiest version of the oats, is to eat oat groats. Second healthiest is the steel cut oats, where the oat groat was cut with a steel blade. And then when they steam them and roll them, that's the rolled oats, which are still fairly healthy, what most
okay.
people eat. But seriously, if you could just try steel cut oats,
I thought that the steel cut was more processed, but it's not.
it's a steel cut is less processed than this, but more processed than the oat groats.
Right, right.
But if you ever get a chance, please try the oat groat and the steel cut oat. They're just, I think, even more tasty. So great. So this is perfect. We'll rinse this all together. Now we're going to get our pies. Our soup is just getting boiled. And,
Oh, yes.
and when people say,
Look at this soup, how it's boiling. Very
raw foodists
hard.
say, oh, all the nutrients, you get rid of all the nutrients. Well, guess where they're going? They're going in the soup. You're going to be eating the soup.
You're right.
So now, that's kind of noisy. Oh, I think it's boiling over just a little bit. I'm going to turn it down just a tiny bit. There we go, so we don't mess up the kitchen. And now we're just going to take this and put this over the fruit. Equally distributed, because I want them to have plenty of food when I'm gone. And again, if you were going to use vanilla, I would probably do a tablespoon of alcohol-free, or maybe 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla powder. You can make your own vanilla by taking 2 vanilla beans, blending it with a cup of water. It's called vanilla water. That'll last about 3 weeks in the fridge. But lately I've just been doing the vanilla powder because I just think it's more cost effective. If you're going to get vanilla beans, get them in bulk. They stay great in the freezer because vanilla, after saffron, is the most expensive spice in the world. And if you just buy it retail at a grocery store, it could be $6 a bean. So I like using the vanilla powder, and I don't like using the alcohol one because, especially in desserts, to me it doesn't taste very good. So then just with my hands, I'm just going to put this over the top. And now we're going to stick it in a preheated 350-degree oven. You could do this with pretty much any fruit. If you were going to do it with like apples, you would maybe spice or nutmeg instead of just cinnamon. So we're just going to stick this in. I'll put it on the bottom shelf, and we're going to put it in for about 40 minutes, 45 at the most, till it starts getting nice and brown on top. And these can be eaten hot right away, or you can just cool them. I just keep mine on the counter at room temperature, and then when my husband wants to eat it, he just eats it. This is really good with the pear whipped cream from my book on process. I was going to make that, but then I didn't, so I apologize. I'll make that another time. So now we are going to make thing that I'm thinking of calling cherub sauce. CHERUB. Now, a cherub is like an angel. And the reason I was kind of toying with the idea of calling it cherub sauce is because when I first met this, when I first made this, it's an applesauce made out of cherries, and there's apples in it too. It's so good. And somebody said, "Oh, this is made out of cherries. I could rub this all over myself." Cherub. I don't know if that means going to stay. So making applesauce is so easy. The Instant Pot, you've got to get one. Go to instantpot.com. Use my name AJ. You get $50 off. They have an 8-quart coming out very soon. What I love about the Instant Pot, other than everything, I travel with mine. Stainless steel insert instead of non-stick. 7 appliances in one. It's a yogurt maker. It's a rice cooker. I mean, I did use applesauce for the last recipe because I understand that people want convenience, but it's so much cheaper and more delicious making your own. It's just so much more flavorful. So we're going to start with a 1/2 cup of liquid. I'm just using unsweetened pomegranate juice, but seriously, if you wanted to just use water, I've done that. That's fine, or unsweetened apple juice. I just think this gives it a nice kind of tart flavor. So 1/2 cup of liquid. Always have to have some liquid when you're using your pressure cooker. I have 8 apples that I've cut up. These happen to be organic Gala. These are just the ones I like. But it's either 8 to 10 apples, depending on which size apples, because you don't want to overfill the pressure cooker. And then a pound of cherries. Here they are in the freezer, and it's fine. It comes right from the freezer. I shop at Costco, and I can get 4-pound bags of organic cherries. Kroger had 3-pound bags, and I've already measured this out. This is 1 pound. We're just going to put it in, and we're going to put our top on. You can see that I didn't overfill it. You want to leave, there is a fill line. You don't want to go past that. So that's why I said 8 to 10 apples, depending on how much they
and the apples have the skin.
Yes. Oh, there's fiber and nutrients. These are organic apples. Apples are one of the things on the Dirty Dozen, but I almost always use the skin of all my produce, especially if it's organic, because that's where a lot of the fiber and nutrients are. So I always use the manual button. I've never read the book how to do this. Sharon McRae just said, just use that button, and we're going to take it down to 10 minutes, and then you're going to see we have the most delicious applesauce you've ever tasted. So what do I use it for? Well, one, I use it for eating, for a dessert. It's very sweet. It's very delicious. What you could do is when you try this breakfast fruit cobbler, if you say, it's just not sweet enough for me, well, instead of adding sugar or even dates, put this sauce on it. Because if you saw the last webinar with the apple pie squares, I had made these for a luncheon for the Ultimate Weight Loss Mastery Group, and I had just made the applesauce, and people were putting the applesauce on the apple pie squares. It's fantastic. It's almost like a frosting. But let me tell you what I use the applesauce for. So if you go back to the first webinar that Gustavo and I did together, I think it was called Cooking Meals to Make You Thin, or one of those. It's a free webinar. We showed you how to make the potato waffles, which was a recipe by the blogger Sandy Plewis, which is like the greatest recipe, and I eat that several times a week. Well, I'm Jewish, and at Passover, not Passover, I'm so Jewish, I don't even remember which holidays. At Hanukkah, we eat potato pancakes, which are traditionally fried in oil. They're made with onion and potato grated, and there are some recipes for vegan oil-free potato pancakes online, but I find that they're really, really dry. Well, those potato waffles to me taste better than any potato pancake. And traditionally, we put sour cream and applesauce on our potato pancakes. Don't do nuts, don't do soy, so don't do sour cream, but this applesauce, the cherry applesauce on the potato waffle with a little bit of grated red onion, tastes like the best potato pancake you've ever tasted. So multiple uses, and you can use this in any recipe that calls for applesauce. And you can change the fruit around. I've used mixed berries instead of cherries. I haven't tried plain blueberry, but that would be good. I've used pears. So when fruit starts to get bad, we were gifted this beautiful box of Harry and David pears before we went to True North for our holiday extravaganza, my husband and I, and there was no way we could eat all of them, so we froze them, and then we made pear applesauce with it, with a little bit of cardamom. So I'm not putting any spices in this one, but if I didn't have the cherries, I'd probably put a little bit of cinnamon in. So we're going to wait for this, we're going to wait for that, we're going to wait for the soup, and then we're going to show you 2 more recipes.
All right.
I think it's important to always have food at hand.
Absolutely. If you fail to plan to fail.
Don't make enough for just one meal.
Don't just make one. That's when people say, do they make a smaller pressure cooker? Do they batch cook?
Right.
And that's what all of us do that follow this healthy lifestyle. Like, for example, I don't know if you can show this, Gustavo. I'm here for 5 days, so look what I did. I cooked some rice. And the only reason I didn't use the Instant Pot is because it's busy for this webinar, and the other Instant Pot, because everybody has two, is being used for with another chef right now. So I had to cook rice the old-fashioned way, which is really hard. It takes a really, really long time. So, and the other thing I did is because I'm going to be here for 5 days, is I just cooked up a tray of sweet potatoes, Japanese and Hana yams, and this is my food.
Oh,
Do not.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I would
All right.
have to have one slice.
But I will share this next recipe with Gustavo. And this I call mint julep. And it's not an alcoholic drink, but mint julep traditionally is. So I've lived in Los Angeles for 45 years, but the first time I went to Disneyland with my grandparents, I was 4 or 5 years old. And at, I believe it's called New Orleans Square, they had this green drink called the mint julep, but it was alcohol-free because there's no alcohol in Disneyland. And I tried to create something that tasted like the mint julep that I remember. So we'll see how it goes. So here's my version of a frozen mint julep. I like to make it really thick so that it's it can almost be a dessert. And sometimes we do have this for dessert, my husband and I. In the blender, 2 tablespoons of lime juice. If it's not sweet enough for you, you can use almond milk or non-dairy milk instead, but then it won't have that little kick from the lime that makes you think it's a mint julep. So we have a whole 6-ounce bag of organic baby spinach. I, at home, buy bulk organic spinach. And then we have 1 cup or a half an ounce, maybe it's an ounce, you'll get the recipes, I promise, I have it written down at home,
And that
of
is
fresh mint.
right.
You want to blend that first to make it into a liquid, which we did, the mint and the spinach. And now we're going to add 2 frozen and ripe bananas. Bananas, if you want it thick and creamy, make sure the bananas are frozen nice and hard first. And then I like to add ice to this. It makes it even more of like a thick consistency. So I'm putting in a cup of ice.
1 cup of ice.
For this you will need the high-powered blender because you're going to need the tamper. You can see how thick it is. It's not even going to come out. That's how that you don't do this with a regular blender. It's so thick that I'm going to need to scoop it in, and people just love this. So let's see if I'm not seeing an ice cream scoop, but you can see this is. Look at this, guys. This is like ice cream, and we'll eat it with a spoon. We'll have Gustavo try it. But guys, look at the texture. And I know that high-powered blenders are expensive, but they've never been more affordable. Get it at Costco where you get a 7-year warranty instead. You know, I promote all these companies. What are they doing for me? But the truth is they are just, once you have it, you will use it. It's just kind of, So my husband and I will often have this for a refreshing dessert. And we will split this between us. So what are we eating? We're eating a banana and 3 ounces of spinach. So it's not
mint.
really, mint. Well, the mint, you need the mint.
You do.
The mint makes it. Without the mint, because with the mint, you do not taste the spinach at all.
No.
This is just, I can just smell this. Wow. So we're going to let Gustavo
And this can be frozen.
I
If you have any left
You know,
over.
if you have it left, yes, I have frozen it, but then it won't stay that consistency.
Right,
But you
it's
can
not
leave it on the
creamy.
counter. Actually, I have done that. You know, and I don't do chocolate, but I know people that have put some chocolate, some raw cocoa nibs in this, made it without the lime, or used some chocolate balsamic on it to be like a mint chocolate chip ice cream. Look at that, you guys. Oh,
beautiful.
Well, I want to just say thank you to the webinar host with the most, Dr. Gustavo Tolosa. He not only does my webinars, but you must watch the free weekly Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific time webinars with Dr. McDougall. They are amazing.
Well, thank you.
So,
thank you.
As my people say, l'chaim, cheers.
Let's see.
Try this.
Let's go here.
This is so
And
good.
we
Seriously.
can try.
Okay, I'll wait for our glasses to clink because. All right. Let's see. What do you say in Argentina? What is your?
Salud.
Oh, salud. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's so good.
Wow.
And it's not overly sweet. Nothing I do is overly sweet.
No.
Oh my goodness.
No, it's just right. But
we interrupt this webinar because this is so good. We have to eat this. Sorry.
yeah, no, your taste buds get adjusted. So me too. I don't need sweet like I used
This
to.
is so good. And on a hot summer day, really refreshing.
Nobody could ever tell that this is spinach.
No. Mm.
I mean, I don't know.
But please don't omit the mint, because then you might tell.
Oh, yeah.
And then you might really know that it's spinach. The 4 recipes we've done so far are all consistent if you're following the Ultimate Weight Loss Program. These are recipes I eat frequently. The next one is more of a special occasion recipe. It is not consistent with the active weight loss phase of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program. However, if you have already lost the weight you want to lose and nuts are not a trigger food for you, or dried fruit like dates, then this is something. I don't eat this regularly, but obviously I have tasted it because I created this recipe in an Iron Chef competition against Chef Ramses Bravo in Santa Rosa. Dr. Goldhammer was the judge. And I like the story because in this, we do this every year. You must come to True North when I'm there, which is the last 2 weeks of every year. And we do an Iron Chef, and it's myself against Chef Ramses Bravo, the executive chef there. And we do 2 rounds. We do a savory round and a dessert round. And every single year, he wins the savory round or the appetizer, and I win the dessert because I was a pastry chef, an executive pastry chef for 5 years at a restaurant that wasn't even vegan. Well, this year they did a little twist. Sorry, I need another.
Another. Oh, yeah.
And what they did is they had the audience choose the ingredients, and it's always 3 surprise ingredients. The judges were Dr. Alan Goldhammer, Jill Nussenow, who teaches at the McDougall program, and Kathy Fisher, who also teaches at the McDougall program in True North. So these were the judges, and they chose for us oats, cashews, and mangoes. Well, I knew I was going to win because Dr. Goldhammer's favorite fruit is mango, and his favorite nut is cashew. So I knew I had it in the bag, and I created this pie that would have been good enough to serve at the restaurant had I still worked there. And it is, high fat because it's got nuts and it's got it's got the dates, but it's still way better than any dessert you could make with sugar or flour, in my opinion. So we're going to eat this while it's delicious.
Yeah, you can.
And come back and then show you how to make the delicious mango lime tart.
Okay.
So while Gustavo and I were enjoying our mint juleps on the veranda in Marshall, Texas, the cherry applesauce became ready. So you can see by this LED readout, it says 7 because 7 minutes have elapsed since it's been ready. And that's what's great about the Instant Pot is that you can set it and forget it. It's not like the stovetop that you have to babysit. You can walk away, walk your dog, take a bath, and I can just leave it to come down to pressure naturally, or I can release the pressure. To release the pressure, you want to get it away from your beautiful cabinets here, and you just move this valve towards you. And, you don't have to be afraid of the pressure cooker. Look, I'm getting a free facial with all these wonderful antioxidants. And how long it takes to release the pressure depends on how full the contents were. This was pretty full, so it could take a minute or 2. So while this is releasing, let's show you the delicious breakfast food cobblers, which are now ready. So they bake for about 40 to 45 minutes at a preheated 350-degree oven. Ooh, that's hot, huh? Ooh, they smell good, don't they, Gustavo?
Oh, yeah.
So you can see that, a lot of people put things like cornstarch and arrowroot to thicken. You don't need it. I'm not sure that stuff is good. So you can kind of feel that it's starting to get nice and brown. You don't want it burned brown, but you want it nice and golden brown. And again, it's not going to be crunchy like the granola because we're not using oil, we're not using the dehydrator, but it's going to be a delicious baked oatmeal topping. And we could eat this right now hot for breakfast or a snack. So I'm just going to leave it in the oven. Well, actually, no. I'm leaving it in the oven until we're done.
You turned it off,
Yeah,
right?
I'm going to turn the oven off. I'm just going to leave it in there, and that's fine. We'll come back to it. Maybe I'll get Gustavo to taste it at the end of the webinar.
Yeah.
So that's great. As you can see, when you hear it starting to slow down, you know that the pressure is almost released. And then what we're going to do is we're going to blend it. And so I brought this from home in my suitcase. It's a immersion blender or a stick blender. This cost me maybe $30 about 20 years ago. It's just real important when you use an immersion blender to keep it on the bottom of the pot that you're using. If you lift it up with it on, you will burn yourself. And if you have a blender, if you would prefer to blend it in the blender, that's fine. You just have to be very careful when you're blending hot things. So here we go, and I love the Instant Pot. There's nothing to clean, except sometimes the top, you just have to wipe it down. And so I'm going to turn this off now. This actually could be a hot fruit compote that you could use in recipes. And you can see it's cooked down considerably. Everything's nice and soft. And then I just whiz it away. Now, as this chills in your fridge, it's going to get nice and thick. I should have made one in advance to show people. I
Right.
apologize, but I promise it will get nice and thick. You can see that it's already thick, but as it cools, it's going to get even thicker.
Right.
And I love leaving the skin on. And if you didn't think that the mint julep was sweet enough for you, or even the cobbler, believe me, this is plenty sweet, especially if that half a cup of liquid is juice. But look at this. This is applesauce. There's no reason to ever buy applesauce again, in my opinion, when this is so much more delicious. And we're done. And the cherry is one of my very favorite fruits. And now that we can get them where I live, frozen, organic, all year round, I'm just in heaven. So there we go. Let's call this cherub sauce unless you have a better idea. And again, this will thicken as it cools.
Right.
Now I'm going to leave this here because I'm going to need this immersion blender now to finish up the soup. So actually, I probably should leave it plugged in because I'm going to bring the soup over here. It's going to be a little bit easier because there's not a plug on the other side. So let me plug this back in. I can unplug the pressure cooker and move that now. Okay. So now the soup's done. The soup took about 30 minutes for everything to cook up without cutting anything up.
Maybe it might have been 40.
Might have been
But
40.
you said that if you cut even
Yeah,
half.
if you were to cut a little bit like the onion in half, but you can see, can you get a shot of this, Gustavo? How the onion just practically melts and the sweet potato melts.
Yeah.
It's just for people that are lazy like me that don't have really good knife skills that don't want to cut anything up.
Right.
And so because we don't have a plug on this side of the kitchen, we're going to move it over here. I'm going to take a little towel over my cutting board like that, even though I think we can go right on these counters. Let's see if the handles. Oh, this is heavy. This makes a lot of soup, guys.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. And now we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to add one ingredient. We're going to add half a cup of lime juice. I measured it out. I just don't
Half a
remember
cup
where I
of
put it.
lime juice.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's very important what you said earlier, that it goes at the end and not when
Right,
you're
yes,
cooking
you don't want to cook with acid. But the thing is I measured it out, but I don't see
And
it. Here it is.
Okay.
Here we go. Half a cup, and if you're using fresh, always include the zest, which looks like this. But I'm saving this for the next recipe. The zest is the outside of the lime. We're going to show you how to get that off. And then just take your immersion blender. And then those big old softball size onions and 2 pounds of sweet potatoes just get pureed very easily. And again, please feel free to do this in your blender, but do it very carefully because heat expands in a closed glass or plastic unit. This smells so good. I've served this to regular people. Even when I've taught at Rancho La Puerta in Mexico, where they specialize in Mexican food, I've served this to the staff, and they have loved my food, even without sugar, oil, and salt, or meat, or cheese. So this is going to take a few minutes. So I've pureed the soup with the immersion blender, and again, if you use your blender very carefully on low, you do not want a soup explosion. And this is what it looks like pureed. You can see it makes a lot. So if you do a Super Bowl party or potlucks, this makes, like I said, at least 32 cups of soup. Not the prettiest soup. That's why I like to add back in some color and texture with that 2nd pound of corn. If you have roasted organic corn, you use that. And then 3 cans of salt-free canned black beans. If you do beans yourself in your Instant Pot, each can of beans is 1.5 cups of beans, but without the liquid from the can, which has a lot of flavor, you'll need to add a 1/2 cup of water or no sodium or low sodium vegetable broth. I hate when one bean gets stuck. So then let's mix it up. So how do you serve this? So I love everything over rice: brown rice, red rice, black rice, wild rice. We're in Texas where they have Texmati rice, which is my very favorite brown rice. It has such a nutty fragrance and taste. I've also put this over Yukon Gold potatoes. Even though there's sweet potatoes in it, everything's better over a potato. And I've put it, I'd like to sprinkle some cilantro on top, maybe some scallions, even put a little pico de gallo salsa because it is not, the prettiest color, but it's a very delicious soup. Let me get a bowl, and maybe Gustavo would like to have some.
Oh,
right now.
I would.
But you really need starch on starch, so
Right.
really it's great with rice. And this soup freezes really, really well. Of course, let it cool first, especially if you're freezing it in glass jars. I wish I had thought to get some scallions or some green to make it
Something
pretty
to,
on top.
yeah, that's right.
But again, it really tastes great, so I hope you'll try this.
Okay.
Nutrient-rich black bean soup has about 10 pounds of vegetables, including about 2 pounds of greens hidden in it, so enjoy.
Well, here's the official trying. Oh man, this tastes this.
Yay!
Wow, wow. It's you can taste.
He already tasted the applesauce.
Yeah, the applesauce is amazing, but this has so much flavor in it. Well, I'm sorry you guys cannot taste this, but you've got to make it. Actually, I'm going back home to Dallas on Sunday, and I'm going to go to the store on Sunday night, and I'm making this Monday. Because, like everybody else, we're so busy, and I need things like this that is made, and I can eat it throughout the week, those days that I work 12 hours, and I don't have time to cook. Okay, I'm going to put some rice in this one.
Here's the cherry applesauce. I put it in a Pyrex to cool, and then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. And it's going to be delicious on everything.
I added some rice on top of it, but you do need the starch.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. That keep me full.
Starch will not make you fat. Look at me. Can you see the camera? That's all I eat is starch and vegetables. I'm not fat. I eat pounds and pounds of potatoes every day and rice.
It's just that you don't put butter.
I don't put butter on it. I don't put oil on it. I don't put cheese
sour
on it.
cream.
I don't even put salt on it. We'll be doing a webinar soon to show you exactly what I do eat. But don't be afraid of starch. Starch is what makes you thin.
Right.
And if you're binging, if you're hungry, if you're overeating, it's because you do not eat enough starch.
That's true.
Any diet that restricts starch will leave you hungry.
Right.
The final recipe is the pièce de résistance. It's actually really easy to make, and it's a really decadent dessert, but it's still healthful because it's all whole food plant-based ingredients without flour, sugar, oil, or salt. It's a raw dessert, so it doesn't need any cooking, so if company's coming at the last minute, you can throw it together with ingredients at least that I always have in my house. So I'm going to make the filling first just because it's already ready to go. So what I have here in the blender is 2 cups of raw cashews that I've soaked to soften. But if you have a high-powered blender, you probably could skip that step. To that, I'm going to add 1 pound of frozen mango that's been defrosted. When people say, how do you eat a pound of vegetables for breakfast? A pound of food is nothing,
it's
guys,
not much.
especially fruits and vegetables that have a calorie density of like 300 calories per pound or less. I suppose you could use fresh mango, but then, you know, it's just so easy to have the 1 pound. And you know if it's frozen, it's going to be sweet. So you throw in your 1 pound of defrosted frozen mango. And then what I have here is 2 ounces of dried mango. They have no sugar added, no sulfites, that I've put just a little boiling water on top to soften. This is just going to kick up that mango flavor. And what I need is 2 tablespoons of lime juice. So I've already got my limes zested. Let me show you how to do that. Let me get the zester. Because we are going to use the zest in the crust, and we could use it in the filling if we have enough. So you can use a zester. I like a zester better than a microplane because I like the long strands so you can see the color. The microplane just kind of shaves it. It's okay if you like that. That's good for nutmeg. So you want to get organic citrus if you're going to use the zest, and you want to just use the green part if it's a lime, or the yellow if it's a lemon, and the orange if it's an orange. I don't think people really zest grapefruit. And if you're a man and you know how to shave, you're just kind of making that motion, but you don't want to go over any of the tracks that you went over before, because then you'll get the pith, which is bitter. So if you want to just get a close-up of this, what you do is you take this tool, it's like about $10 maybe or less at Bed Bath & Beyond, and you just kind of go like this. Can you see? Woo, you're getting the strands, and you just put them in the recipe. And again, like in the black bean soup, this really does make it delicious, especially if you're not using salt. So that's how you use the zester. I'm going to need 2 tablespoons in the filling and in the crust. So let's do that. And you can certainly use bottled if you want. They say that sometimes if limes won't give up their juice, to microwave them.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Microwave here. So let's just try my hand. Yeah, these are stingy limes.
Yes.
Oh boy. I can't make a mango lime tart without lime juice. So I should have thought of that and maybe bought some
already
done. Yeah, that would have been smart. So So, hindsight is always 20/20. I thought these looked like it's coming. So,
Well, we can.
see, we're really cooking. I should have done this in advance. That's called mise en place, when you get everything ready in advance, which we did for almost all the 5 recipes. There we go. And do you see a tablespoon? Right here. Okay.
Right there.
There we go.
How much do you need for this?
I need 2 tablespoons for the
2 tablespoons.
for the filling for sure, and then if I have enough, we're going to add it to the crust. But the crust, we're going to add the zest, so it's going to actually be okay. But the little bit of sourness, limes are actually sweeter than lemons, which is why I enjoy using them more. And I know if I had a big strong man like Gustavo, I could probably get more juice out of these.
I can try.
But the sourness, the tartness of the lime is a great contrast to the sweetness of the mango. They pair very, very well together. So let's see if we got our 2 tablespoons. Then I'm going to ask Gustavo to
It doesn't
squeeze
look
these.
like that.
Let's see. They should yield at least 1/8 of a cup per lime. So these are very stingy limes in Texas, people. So this was 2 tablespoons.
Good.
So we'll try to get a little bit more out.
Uh-huh.
So what we're going to do is we are going to puree this filling. Let's get the tamper. That's the important part. Puree that until smooth, until you get what's called like a vortex, when it starts swirling around, like when you flush a toilet, when it goes psh, that's usually good. I knew that I was going to win the Iron Chef with this when I saw Dr. Goldhammer take the first bite. He doesn't usually make very much expressions. This is Dr. Goldhammer when he's smiling, and this is Dr. Goldhammer when he's sad. He doesn't really have much facial expressions. That's why he's such a good poker player. But I knew that when he tasted the first bite and an eyebrow went up, I knew I had won. So this is the filling. We'll put this aside for now while we make the crust. Do you think you can squeeze more lime for me?
I will try.
We'll show you how to make the crust. Usually I do that first, but it doesn't really matter. So what I'm going to do, and I brought all these ingredients in my suitcase actually from Los Angeles.
Really?
But I didn't know they were going to have them in frozen.
Was it a
They did.
carry-on or the actual suitcase that you checked in?
My actual suitcase, not the frozen mango though, that
Okay.
I bought. So we've got 1 cup of cashews. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind these into a flour.
These are raw.
Raw cashews, yes. It's cheaper if you buy the pieces than the whole, about $1.50 difference. So I'm using a food processor fitted with the S blade because it looks like the letter S. And this is Mandy's, and I have the same one at home. I got this for less than $75 at Walmart. You don't have to get a really expensive one, but blenders and food processors are not interchangeable. You get these at Walmart. And so to that, I'm going to add a cup of oats. I use the gluten-free extra thick cut. I just like them. They're a little bit more toothsome, but in this recipe, it really doesn't matter because we're grinding it anyway into a flour-like consistency. If you didn't want to do this, by the way, you can buy oat flour, but why pay more? You can also buy cashew flour at Trader Joe's, but it's just so much cheaper to do it yourself. So now we're going to not puree, but we're going to process that into, there we go. Perfect. We have our little powder. I'm going to add the zest from both of those limes. This gives it even a little bit more limey touch. And then I'm going to have 2 cups of pitted dates. This is about 12 ounces of dates. I prefer the Deglet Noor because they're drier and stickier. They're not stickier. The Medjool are stickier, but they're a little drier. They're actually, I think, a little bit less sweet, and they're way cheaper than the Medjools. But if you're just eating dates, of course, you want to go with the Medjool. So we're going to put those in here, and we're going to process it until like almost a ball form. So this could take a few minutes. Make sure there's no pits. So what you're looking for is what I call the break point. You want to be able to push it into a ball like this, but then have it break nicely. And I can see that's not quite there yet. I don't want to add my lime juice until I've reached what's that nice break point. Let's check it now. Now you can see that when I make it into a ball, and by the way, these make great truffles.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
just roll them up and eat them. Why pay, $2 for a Lara bar? The lime zest makes a difference. Now look at that. Break point, perfect. So now that I've got it where I want it, now only then would I add my liquids if I was using vanilla extract, or in this case, my 2 tablespoons of wine. There we go. And now we put it into, this is called a tart pan. I like to make these individual actually for people,
Yeah,
so that
individual.
everybody has their own dessert. This has a bottom that you can push up, so it's really great. I always get the word tart and tort mixed up. If this is a tart, and then you take your hands and you just press, press, press. If you saw my dessert webinar, this is very similar technique to what we did when we made the taste like a Snicker bar pie. Of course, instead of cashews, we use peanuts. And then you just use, I don't know if this is the palm of your hand or the heel of your hand, but you just press it up. Now, let's say this was a little bit too wet, too sticky. So what do? Well, a couple of things. Well, one, you could dehydrate the crust. That would take a while. The other thing you could do, and I sometimes do this, I take a little bit of unsweetened coconut. Some people can't have coconut for whatever reason. And I would just mix it in by hand, or a few more of the oats, just to get that right. The only thing about when you watch videos, what I love about cooking in person for people, my hands-on classes, is they can actually feel the texture that I'm talking about, because it can't be super wet, but obviously it can't be super dry either. So you just kind of bam, 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 just get it all the way out. So this is a fluted pan, which is real nice. When you take it out, you can see these edges. Now, unfortunately, this one is going to have to set up, so we're going to have to take a picture of it for you and show you what it looks like. That's why I do love doing these individual in the smaller pans, so that everybody gets their own, and it makes 4 if you're doing that. People like having individual desserts. People don't like to share when it's dessert. I don't care what they say. They really don't.
I don't.
So push, push, push.
Get your aggressions out that way.
And again, this is a dessert in itself. You could just slice strawberries and serve this. That could be a pie. A delicious raw last-minute pie. So there you go. And a lot of times I'll have the crust already made and in the freezer for if I know I'm going to make this dessert, so I don't have to rush at the last minute. But it really doesn't take too long. And again, no flour, no sugar. Ugh. Flour and sugar aren't food, guys. Anything that comes in a white powder, whether it's flour or sugar or salt or rat poison or cocaine, powders aren't food. We're supposed to eat our food whole, not powder. So there we go. Normally I would do it maybe a little bit more meticulous, but I don't want to bore you guys. Your thumb is also very good for getting the last bit, index finger, whatever hand you can do. There we go. And so I'm not going to do this now, but you see that I can just push it up when it's ready, and you can see that beautiful fluted edge, because this does need to chill. So what we're going to do now is we are going to take the filling that we made a few minutes ago, and I let Gustavo lick this if he wants to, because we don't want to waste anything.
We cannot waste that.
So I don't know where this, now let's say you didn't want to make the crust. And don't ask me, please, how to make this without nuts, because that's the whole point. This is a rich dessert, and since I don't use butter or sugar or any of those things, you have to use something to make it
Let's see.
creamy.
I'm going to use this finger and try it.
There we go. Isn't it good, the
This is
filling? So
very
what you guys
creamy.
could do, is you could just make this as a parfait. You don't need the crust. You could put this in beautiful, like champagne-type flute glasses and layer it with fresh berries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries. Oh,
Mm.
the filling isn't it to die for?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so good.
So great.
If I had some vanilla, I would have put in maybe a
Yeah,
tablespoon of
I
alcohol-free
can see
vanilla
how that.
or a little bit of the vanilla powder, but I didn't have it. I'm not going to use alcohol. I'm not going to compromise my values just for that. I won't do it. There we go. And then if you've seen me make any dessert, I recommend you get something called an offset spatula. This was $7 at Walmart. It's just easier than trying to use a knife or a spatula because it has this beveled edge. And you just, the mayor is going to love this pie. He loves pie. So there we go. I shouldn't have pushed that out to show you because it's made it go in. So usually I do raspberries because the color of the orange mango with the red raspberry to me is just so beautiful.
Oh,
but
yeah.
every now and then I can't find them, and I prefer to use fresh because the frozen often aren't as sweet. But more than that, they are a little bit mushier. So no problem. We found everything in Marshall except for bok choy, and maybe they had it and I just didn't see it. So I like to do the raspberries upside down with the hole on the bottom. And you just put them around the edge like that. And I have actually done raspberries, blackberries, and blueberries made like a pattern. So this is the part where you get to be creative. But I think also taste-wise, I like it best with raspberries than the other fruits. But it's your pie. You do it how you like. I don't know very many people that don't like raspberries. So it's a wonderful, wonderful fruit. And there we go. So we just, I bought, I may not have bought enough to go all the way around. So if that's the case, I love when it's completely covered. That is my favorite because then it's just, and I suppose you could use strawberries too, but strawberries are kind of big. I might slice them, you know. So I'm not sure I'm going to have enough to go all the way around. So what I'm going to do for the sake of this is maybe just do rows. You know, but if you can get enough to go all the way around, I think that's best because then every piece is just covered with raspberries. But you know what? We, as always, these webinars are live; they're not rehearsed, and we make it work. You know, because that's what happens to real people. If you're in the middle of a recipe, unless you have a neighbor that happens to have raspberries, most people aren't going to stop just to go to the store.
No.
So, you know, the motto of the culinary school I went to was, it's not what you can make, it's what you can fix. And so, as they say here in Texas, we're fixing to make a delicious pie.
Yes.
They don't really go anywhere in Texas or do anything, but they're always fixing.
Always fixing to do something.
They say, hey, we're fixing to go. Well, why don't you just go instead of being fixing to go? I'm just teasing y'all, and they say y'all a lot, which is cute. How do you say y'all in Argentinian?
I don't think we have one.
Are there a lot of plant-based eaters in Argentina, Gustavo?
Now there are. You know,
Wow.
it's a global trend.
That's fantastic.
There are quite.
Because when I think of Argentina, at least the restaurant in Los Angeles, it was very heavy with
and it still is. It's very hard to find places.
Quite enough, but it's still quite pretty.
Wow.
And, you know, this is optional. You either raw, organic, unsweetened coconut, or you can always toast it if you like that look better. But this way, for people that are raw, this will keep it raw. You don't have to do this, but since we are missing a few of the raspberries, I'm getting it all over the floor. I apologize, Mandy. And there we go. This is...
Wow. Oh.
Dr. Goldhammer voted this the best pie
The best
he's ever eaten. So
Really?
please enjoy the raw.
Does
mango.
it go in the refrigerator?
Oh, yes. Do not bake this and do not freeze this. This goes in the refrigerator. You don't need any of those stablers or thickeners. This, because of the cashews, this will set up in a few hours.
How long?
If you can wait.
Yes, if you can wait.
How long? Depending on how cold your fridge is,
cold?
4 to 6 hours overnight. But you'll know because you'll be able to slice it really easily.
All
So
right,
let's stick that in the fridge for later. And before we go, maybe I can get Gustavo to try the pies. They're done. I turned the oven off. I just haven't taken them out yet.
Okay.
So we have mango.
Well, it's quite a sacrifice to try these, but I will.
He'll take one for the team.
I will do it for you all.
For y'all.
For
And the
y'all.
thing is, I feel bad because you guys don't get to smell what we smell.
No.
So would you like mango? Would you like...
No. Well, I mean, I like both.
So let's give you a little of each.
But if I had to choose, I would choose the cherry one.
Well, then, if he has to choose. Poor Gustavo.
Yeah, she's making me choose.
And again,
so.
how about this?
Oh,
Cobbler. You can have this. Look at how beautiful. Ooh,
look at the
you
color.
Have this for breakfast. You could almost bake these into bars. I bet I could find a way to put a crust on the bottom. But
yes.
let's get you a smaller spoon so that. Oh, this is so good hot. I just wish I had eaten so that I can eat my dessert. But you could eat this as dessert first. This is very delicious, and I should have made the pear whipped cream. That would have been so good.
Oh,
But it's in my book
that's
on
right.
process. Just buy the book.
Yeah.
So he needs to come here and taste it live.
Okay, here's the first bite.
We could put the cherry sauce on it if we really wanted to make it decadent. Mm-hmm. And he's very honest. He's an Aquarius, like Abraham Lincoln, and you know that they don't lie.
We can't.
Yeah. He's adorable, isn't he, you guys? You're so lucky to have him. So that's my friend, Dr. Gustavo Tolosa.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
Good. He's so happy because he's so busy working and he never gets a chance to eat.
I know. This is great. Yeah, I eat potatoes and broccoli most of the time.
That's what I eat every day. So
a
if you
treat.
have ideas for webinars that you'd like to see us do, or recipes you'd like to see me create, or recipes that already exist in on process that I've never shot a video of, please let us know. And we thank you so much for watching. We appreciate your support. It does
Very
take
good.
a lot of time to get these going and test the recipes and get the ingredients and clean the kitchen, which is my least favorite part. So
Yeah.
we appreciate your support of our work.
Thank you. Okay, we'll see you in the next one then.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Come on, we just talked about you.
making
No,
a-
don't be shy. This is Ed Smith, former mayor. We're talking about you. This is so. Don't be shy.
Oh, you're on live?
It's not live. It's not live. So if you don't like it, we can edit it.
We
But we
can
were
try
talking
cut it.
about what you're doing because I'm actually here because I love the Smiths. They're good friends of mine, and I'm here to actually cook some food for him and show you how to do it. But do you want to talk about how you got this going?
Oh, gee.
Tell me a little bit because I don't know.
This is Gustavo Tolosa.
Yes,
He's the
we're just
webinar.
meeting.
He is the webinar host for Dr. McDougall.
Oh, okay, great.
And so we're doing a webinar. And so
Yeah.
why don't you tell the people? Because I think they'd like to
Yeah.
know.
Well,
When did you start? When did it start?
This is called
the
Great
Health
Timing.
Fest started in 2011, and it all started because we'd gotten involved with Neil Bernard, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and through that involvement, we got to meet a lot of different people like Dr. McDougall. We went to one of his events.
Right.
And met a different groups around the country, different Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Furman, various ones. And we know through that association, we
Yeah, come talk to the
Yeah.
people because they want to. Doesn't he look like Kevin Spacey, the actor? House of Cards.
through that association, we met Rip Esselstyn and his father-in-law, and they were doing an event, an immersion event, what they called an Engine 2 immersion for Whole Foods
Right.
employees trying to Whole Foods was trying to reduce their healthcare costs,
Sure.
and so that's what they were trying to accomplish. And so were having these immersion events at different stores around the country for their employees, and I think some of their customers also could attend. And so we saw what a change, the Whole Foods plant-based diet could make in different people's lives, and we'd seen some of the clinical results from some of the doctors that we knew were working with PCRM and that kind of thing. So we thought, well, maybe we could, bring some kind of meaningful change to a community by trying to get them to adopt this. And so we thought, well, what if we tried to have something kind of like an immersion event in a city and see what kind of results that might bring.
Yeah.
And so it all got started with that attempt. I thought we'd be lucky to have 30 people attend the first event. We had over 100.
And this year there's close to 600 now.
Yeah, so we're
And they come from like 17 different states. Just
well, 28 over 28 states.
Wow,
that's
signed
amazing.
up for this event, and we're a couple of different countries. Last year we had people from 5 countries.
Wow, that's
Oh.
incredible. You
So,
should be so proud of the work
Yes,
you've done.
really.
I just Googled before you came in the population of Marshall, Texas in 2015. It said it was about 23,000. How receptive are those 23,000 people to the message that you tried to give them while you were mayor and that you're still trying to get them to
Well, that's been
understand
an evolving kind of process. There's about 27,000 people that
Wow.
live here, and it's been. It started off, people thought we were kind of crazy.
now? They always do.
And then, as some people begin to see changes in their life, or know people that had some positive results, it went from being crazy to, oh, well, that's them, the Smiths, they're kind of they eat twigs and grass, and that's good for them, and that's fine. You know, they're not maybe not so crazy, but you know, if they want to eat that, that's fine too. Now there's a lot of people will tell us, you know, they want to try to make a change, or a lot of people will say, we're kind of to the point now where, gee, you know, I've seen some good results in people, you know, and that's good. How can I do it? Or I've seen, you know, I think what y'all are doing is great and good, and you know, it's doing good. I just could never do it myself,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And so, so that's kind of where. So it's kind of evolved from being crazy to we're accepted, you know, in the community, and what we're doing is accepted. It's not ridiculed like it was. I'm sure there are.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
there
But
always
it's
are.
a process that
but-
it's sometimes slow.
But by and large, you know, we don't take, you know,
Right.
people don't harass
No.
us.
Yeah,
like
they're
they
not
do.
they're not throwing kale at your house
So,
anymore. What advice would you give to other mayors or even just regular citizens in the city to try to do something like you and Mandy have accomplished?
well, you know, we've kind of held what we're doing here out as much as possible as a template to follow,
Mhm.
and so consequently there have been other groups around the country that have started up, and you know, they use the same term, get healthy. So
Right.
there's a Get Healthy San Antonio now.
Fantastic.
There's Get Healthy Sulphur Springs, Little Rock, various
Wow.
ones around the country. There's a
Wow.
group in New Hampshire. Longview has a different name. They went B-Lean.
That's okay.
Mhm.
That's
but they've
it's
got,
amazing what
you know,
one
different
person
groups
can do.
spreading
And Ed and Mandy were the first recipient of the Plant Based Hero Award for the work that they've accomplished in their town. So it
Yeah,
doesn't matter how
great.
small your town, one person really can make a difference.
Well, you can make a difference, and it does. You know, some of the groups that have started around the country, some of them are very small, some of them are limited in scope and what they try to do, and but you never know what's going to happen until you try it. And
Right.
so I would
Mhm.
encourage anybody to, you know, feel free
To
to
get started,
you know, contact us. We'd be happy to tell you.
And what
we're
website is the best website to find out about your work?
doing. Get Healthy Marshall Inc.
Easy as pie, and we're going to be making pie because the mayor loves pie. So when I come from California, I always making
I
pie.
like her pies.
Mm,
They're the
it's-
only ones that are on my
Right.
on
on his approved list. Thank you. So what? This is just wonderful.
Oh,
You just
I'm
walked
so
in
glad.
just as
I'm
we
so
were
glad.
starting. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Well,
And you're going to have more than pie. You're going to have soup. You're going to have cobbler.
We're
You're
going to
have
film several
yeah. We're going to make
recipes.
lots of recipes
Right.
for you. So
this is good. Well, we're always glad to have you here. You make the event go.
well, thank you. Yeah, it's just you guys. If you get a chance next year, because you'll be seeing this after the event, you have to come. It's just one of the best plant-based
Mhm.
events.
If you want to have a successful event, have
yeah,
it.
thank you. he's my PR manager,
Yes.
so thank
No,
you.
that's the truth.
Thanks so much, Ed.
Well, thank
So
you.